Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar on mastering landed costs in NetSuite. My name is Yash. I'm a lead consultant at VNMT and I'm based in Brisbane. I specialize in end-to-end NetSuite implementations. And thank you for joining our call. Um, Before we dive into our topic for today, which is landed costs, I'd quickly like to introduce who we are at VNMT. VNMT Solutions was founded in 2011 in Melbourne, where our headquarters are still located. Over the years, we've expanded into multiple cities in India, which is in Pune, Jaipur, Gandhinagar, and also have a presence in US. We are specialized ERP consulting firm and proud partners of both NetSuite and Celigo. We handle everything from full NetSuite implementations and custom solutions to third-party integrations as well. Hi, Ian. Yes, we'll be sending you the video after the call. Yep. Other than these services, we also have our own proprietary products. Feel free to explore more on our website at vnmtsolutions.com. This is the second webinar we are conducting, and the idea behind it is to contribute, share knowledge, and grow as the community grows together. Yep. Here's a quick slide about our work. As I mentioned earlier, we are partners of NetSuite and we are partners of Celigo. Next one. Here's what we'll be covering today, starting with a quick introduction, and then we'll see what landed costs are, different types of allocation methods in NetSuite for landed costs, followed by the demo, and some reporting and Q&A to conclude the session. So what is landed cost? Landed cost refers to the complete cost of acquiring goods, not just the price of the item, but everything from freight to taxes to duties, etc. When we apply the landed cost properly in NetSuite, it ensures accurate cost of goods sold, better inventory valuation, and better pricing structure. As of applying landed costs in NetSuite, we've got three different allocation cost categories and three different methods to do so. Next, we'll be looking at our allocation methods. So we've got three allocation methods: by value, by weight, and by quantity. By value is distributing the cost based on value. For example, if you've got an item A, which is worth $100, you've got an item B, which is worth $200, and you've got a freight of $30, NetSuite will split the costs where A gets $10 and B gets $20. Next one is by weight. By weight allocates according to the weight of the product that you've purchased from the vendor. If item A weighs 2 kgs, if item B weighs 6 kgs, the landed cost split would be 25 to 75% in that scenario. Next one we've got is landed cost by quantity. If you receive 10 units of item A and you receive 10 units of item B, NetSuite will split the costs equally over them. So these are the three main allocation methods. Other than that, we also use a flat allocation, which is a flat price, which does not depend on value or weight or by quantity. Anyone have any
Yes,
questions with these allocation
yes.
methods?
Why do we need that flat allocation method? In what scenario we are required
Hmm.
that particular thing? I mean, is something specific there?
So when we don't have a specific split, so when we are not sure if we want to divide our landed costs by weight, by quantity, or by value, we assign saying that, oh, if it's going to be this item, it always has to have $100 of freight. In scenarios like that, we use flat, but it is used very rarely.
Ah, got it. Thank you.
Next are our three methods of applying landed costs. First one, we've got standard item receipt. Standard item receipt, as the name says, this is the most used, where you've got a purchase order You create an item receipt from it. Over there, you would assign landed costs on line level, or you would assign landed costs on the whole transactions, or you can also attach some external transactions on the same item receipt to allocate costs better. We'll be having a demo of this after this slide. Next, we've got landed cost templates. Now, landed cost templates is not a frequently used method. What happens over here is that you've got items at which you've got a set price or a set or expected landed costs. So if it's an item A, you know every time it's going to be charged $20 freight. You create a template, assign it to that item, and every time you create a purchase order, it automatically retains that landed cost. Next one is inbound shipment. Inbound shipment, however, is a big module of its own. Today, we'll be focusing only on the landed cost part. What happens over here is that you've got purchase orders from a single or multiple vendors. You select heaps of items from all of those purchase orders, and you assign landed costs to multiple items from it. Yep. In mass or bulk fulfillments, inbound shipment landed cost is very useful. Next, we'll be looking at demo and setup of a landed cost. For setup, the first thing that we need to do is we need to turn on our feature. To turn on the feature, you would go to Setup, Company, Enable Features. After Enable Features, go to Items and Inventory, scroll down, and you will find landed cost. This feature needs to be ticked on if you want to allocate your landed costs to your items. Next, we need to look at our accounting preferences. You go to Setup, Accounting, and Accounting Preferences for it. So there are two checkboxes that we need to know about. Just up. So under items and inventory in accounting preferences, we've got include landed cost in last purchase price. Now, usually when you would apply any type of landed costs, the cost goes to average cost of your item record, but not last purchase price. This feature, if you tick it on, the add-on cost that you would have added would also go into last purchase price. This is not a recommended, but in some businesses it is required, so you can use this option. Next, we've got landed cost allocation per line. Now, on our first method that we had discussed before, standard item receipt, we can use this one. If you always want to have the checkbox to apply landed costs per line, you would have this ticked on for default settings. Otherwise, you can have it as unmarked as well. After accounting preferences, next thing that we need to create is our cost categories. For cost categories, you go to Setup, Accounting, and Accounting Lists. In accounting lists, there's a lot of features: your price level, your terms, your vendor categories, expense categories, and then we've got our cost categories. Go to cost categories and click on new. On the right side, you'll see cost type, and you have to select landed over here. Once you select landed, your expense account option will be available. So you click on a new cost category that you want to add, select an expense account, and you can save. That's how you would create a new cost category. Right. Coming back to our presentation, next page we've got is a demo of our standard item receipt. With standard item receipt, we have already created a few purchase orders, which I would like to demo. All right, I've got this purchase order. It's a plain normal purchase order. Hi, Jay, I can see that you've raised your hand.
Yes, sorry. Just before we move on, this will applicable to multi-currency as well, right? If you are
Yes,
paying in a
absolutely.
USD, yeah, okay.
100%.
And if we go with the weight level, is
Mhm.
there an advanced reporting that we can run if we want to find out what was the total cost that we are paying maybe let's say, for example, on a kilograms or by cubic square meter?
I believe we can.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
cool. Thank you.
Mhm. Right. For purchase orders, but Jay, thanks for the question. There is something that reminds me. I will get to it in this section itself for the same. For the purchase order, it's a normal plain purchase order. I've created one item over here. Now I need to add some landed cost while receiving it. I would click on the receive button. For the first example, I will be showing you landed cost per line. Now you can see this check this landed cost button. I cannot do anything about it because my landed cost per line is not ticked on. Once it is ticked, I am allowed to enter any additional cost that I want to add over here. Duty. Let's say I've got duty of $200. I can add over here. Got freight. I can add freight over here. And okay. To fill my inventory detail. Now, the good and easy thing about doing landed cost per line, you don't have to worry about weight, value, or quantity, any of those allocation methods, because you're directly allocating the total value for that line item and save. Once you've added the landed cost, you can go to the item and check the values. In the previous question Jay had asked, he had asked whether we can do landed cost by currency as well. Now, one thing to note over here is that if you have any currency or any type of landed cost you're applying, so whether your costs are in AUD, whether your costs are in yen or euro, the final value you see would be in USD because USD is the currency of your item receipt. To see how my landed cost has been applied on this transaction, I will be going to the GL impact. So my stock value is $974 and I've added $200 worth of duty and $300 worth of freight. So I can go to my item, scroll down, and you can see my purchase price was $974, but my average cost has increased for the item. Yep. And average cost for that location has also increased. Any questions by anyone over here? For the next example for our first method, I've got another purchase order open. And I'll be receiving this against the whole transaction. So I won't be taking on landed cost per line. I'll directly go to the landed cost sub tab over here. Over here, I would be splitting all the values and all the items either by weight, by quantity, or by value. Simply what I need to do is I would need to put a hi Ian. Yeah, I can see you've got your hands up, but you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry, if we raise a purchase order in a currency, but our international freight is charged in AUD, you're applying the freight to the landed cost in a converted AUD or in an AD value?
So what will happen is that you, for example, you're attaching a bill which is in AUD. So that bill will come through, but bill's value will automatically get converted into USD. So for example, it was 100 AUD. When you select a bill or when you add the 100 AUD, it gets converted into 68 or whatever USD conversion there is. Yep, I hope that answers your question. Sorry, we were looking at our landed costs against the transaction. We've got three options: weight, quantity, and value, as we had discussed earlier. For value, we've got $100 over here. Straight up, how many of our items are over here? It would split according to the value of the item. By weight or by quantity, if I had 5 items over here, depending on how many items per unit are there, it would split my $100. That's the simple funda over here. The next thing which is new over here, or it's not being used by a lot of people, which is our other transactions option over here. What this other transaction does is that if there's any third-party bills or third-party transactions, Ram Pratap, I'll just get back to you after this segment. Yep, sorry. After manual, you'll be choosing other transaction where you can select the transaction. So if you've got any third-party bills or third-party purchase orders, which are not from this vendor, you can attach those bills as well. So for example, I've got a bill of this one. I'll open this bill in background just for showing you. But what I'm doing is I'm attaching a third-party bill, this one, to my item receipt. So $400 worth of cost is added. Ian, to your previous question, if this bill was in AUD, the 400 would get the 400 AUD would get converted into USD and would be shown over here. All right. So what I'm doing on my bill is that on item level, I select landed cost category. Now, an important point to note over here is that this field by native NetSuite reports is a hidden field. So you would need to customize your bills and turn on this landed cost category. So you can select your duties, freight, or any other cost categories that you've created. Once you've done that, on your item receipt, you can attach these bills. But you would see over here, the total of my bill is much greater, which is $1,500. But over here, I can only see $400 worth of duty. That is because the total of my duty over here and over here is 150 plus 250, which is 300. Same, if I was selecting freight, it is 500, which is 250 plus 250, which is freight on both of my freight lines. Same would happen for my storing and handling. Yep. Any questions over here? Sorry, Ram Pratap, you can jump in now.
Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to know, whatever you have shown is for the cost allocation method quantity. What if you want to do similar kind of thing, mix of allocation method? I mean, some of allocation method are quantity, some of weight, or some of value. How can we do it at this same page?
Good question. It cannot be done in that way. So on a single item receipt or a single purchase order, you have to select either quantity or weight or by value. You cannot split it into three because you're deciding how you want to do it for the whole transaction. Whereas if you wanted to do it per line, you can do it by taking landed cost per line and then you do it per individual line.
Okay, I mean, for per line also, we can add mix of.
Yes, per line, you don't have to select any of those three options. You can directly put a cost.
Okay. So
I've got a few questions. Jay, you want to jump in?
Yes, on the same one which RP mentioned, if we have a purchase order and we would like to apply different category, we can do that by creating multiple IRs, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, thanks.
100%. Laramie, you've got a question as well?
Yes, Yash. So just a question. So in attaching an other transaction, so are you able to attach more than one transaction? So say, for example, there are two bills for the same freight line.
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, NetSuite does not allow that. But what we can do for that is, for example, you want to attach two different duty lines, right? So what I would recommend over here is that you create another cost category and call it as duty 2 or duty 3, and then you attach multiple transactions in that way. It's not an official solution, but it works out.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Vishal?
Yes. Yeah, so we have three allocation method, right? Quantity, then cost, and then weight, right? So quantity obviously will use the quantity from the line level. Then we have cost and then we have weight. So from which field we are going to use that weight?
Good
Is it?
question, Vishal.
Mhm.
Thank you. So this is very important to note. If you are selecting weight, if I go to my item, let's open this item. I'm clicking on opening this monitor. There's two things which are mandatory and need to be selected if you want to apply some landed costs. One is this track landed cost button. Another thing, as Vishal, you asked a question about weight, the item needs to have a weight. If it does not have a weight, while you try and save this item receipt, it will ask you to choose a different allocation method because there is no weight attached to that item.
Okay.
Yep. Same thing. If it is a zero cost item, you won't be able to use value.
Okay.
Yep. I hope that clears up your question. Or
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
perfect. Right. Does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I can move on to the next method for our landed costs. Harvind.
Yes. Yeah, just a quick one. Like let's say for example, I'm trying to put a landed cost for multiple individual items, and at the same time, I'm also sometimes I might be looking at procuring them as an, let's say, an assembly item. Is there a logic like a standard functionality in NetSuite where it can maybe consolidate all the landed cost from the individual item for an assembly one?
That is a very good question. What we can, there's no particular logic. It would be a special use case, and then you would have to deal it specially. There's no fixed set of answer for it, unfortunately.
Yep, gotcha.
But all the components of your assembly items would be having their landed costs, which would increase the cost of your components, which would eventually increase the cost of your assembly item.
Right, right. But we got to maintain it in two different ways.
In two different ways. So you'll be buying components separately.
Yep, gotcha.
Yep. Right. Moving on to the next part or next method we've got is landed cost templates. Now, landed cost templates I had mentioned earlier is an estimate that you believe this item could be costed. What you need to do for it is you would search for landed cost templates. Landed cost templates. Now I've already created a few templates over here. Duty, flat amount, value, weight. But I'll create a new one. What we are doing over here is that we are putting a fixed rate and we would be assigning this to an item. So anytime it is being bought, you can see the effect. So let's create one for tax. You'll be choosing the, let's choose test cost template. Choose the cost categories that you want to assign to this landed cost template. Let's do duty by flat amount of $100. Right. What I've done is for quantity, it would be taking $2 per unit. I've put landed cost. Now, one thing to note over here, if you add 5 landed cost categories, it will choose all 5 different landed costs and assign it to your item. So you have to be particular saying that I need to use only 1 or 2 or 3 or how many ever you need. I've created and assigned a few landed cost templates on a few items. I'll quickly show those. So to add new landed cost templates to your items, it has to be in the edit form of your page. So edit it, scroll down, and to your bottom right, you will see landed cost templates. And you add new templates, or you do your mapping of your landed cost templates over here. You select the new one. So for example, I add a test cost template. I can select over here. And if I want it to be preferred, I can select the preferred option. Save. Same way I've done it for other items. You can see. Now I've got an example ready for this, which is a purchase order. Hope you guys can see my screen, and this purchase order number 374. On this purchase order, I've already selected my landed cost templates with weight, value, and flat amount. So whatever rules would be set over here. So for example, let's open flat amount. So flat amount has freight of, my bad, wrong one. Flat amount has a freight of $100 and a duty of $70. So whatever scenario I choose over here, for that item, my landed cost is going to be 170, which is 70 plus 100 for my duty and freight both. Same way for my iPad Pro 7.9.7 inch, I can check my landed cost template weight, which will be split by 0.1 of the item and 0.1 of the item for duty and freight both. So let's receive these items. Now, because we are doing it against a single line, we have to have landed cost per line ticked. Hi, Jay, got a question?
Yes, sorry to interrupt. So the template costs that you showed, of course, you select that when you are creating a purchase order. But let's say if I have a certain items which is by default, I know that it will be by weight, or I have a predefined template cost. Is there a way we can automate that while creating a purchase order? That it should populate based on the item code. So just to reduce the amount of time that we are spending on the purchase order creation.
I believe we can. There is an option on the preferred one, but even if we can do it, I don't recommend, because your landed cost is supposed to be done on item receipt. This landed cost templates are only used in scenarios where you want to allocate some landed cost in advance that you are expecting on your purchase order. So it's a very unique use case where you would want it, but I believe it can be done.
Okay, yeah. For example, duty, which is quite fixed on the items, that can be by default, because it will be the same unless there is a changes.
100%. Yeah. So you mark it as preferred. If for some reason this preferred does not get auto populated on the purchase order, I believe a simple workflow can fix that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So we're just receiving this purchase order where our landed cost templates have already been selected. The selection of those is very simple. When you go to the item, you select all the available landed costs and you select one of those. On my item receipt, I don't need to do anything over here. I've just ticked on landed cost per line, and I will go and save this. It is telling me that you've allowed landed cost estimation option, and it will automatically calculate the estimated landed cost for me. Yep, my item receipt has been saved. Let's look at what landed cost was applied over here. So my iPad Pro 7.9 inch landed cost over here is 2.40, 2.40 for this one. Next one is by value, which is 3.24, 3.24, and 3.24. And flat amount was 70 and 100. So what happened over here and here is that my landed cost template was 0.1. So it took 0.1 of that cost. So the cost of the item was 3.2, 3.24. So 0.1 of this is 3.2. That's why on my item receipt, I've got 3.24, 3.24, 3.24, one for each cost category. And for my last one where I had flat amount, does not matter whatever my total amount is, how many ever quantity I have, or how much ever weight of this item is, it's a flat amount that I've chosen. So it put flat amount of $70 of my duty and $100 of freight. Any questions, anyone for this one? So that was a highlight me.
Sorry, Ash. Is the landed cost template the same as the inventory cost template? Because we're using inventory cost template and we're using standard costing, not average costing.
I believe it's different. I'm not sure what you are using at the moment. We can check it later, but I believe it's different. Your landed cost templates are different to what inventory costing templates are.
Okay.
All right. Next we've got is inbound shipment. Inbound shipment. Now to create an inbound shipment, all you need to do is search inbound shipment over here and create inbound shipment. In inbound shipment, what you need to do is you need to add items. Before adding items, you need to select purchase order. So you can select a purchase order over here and select all the items, or you can do it in bulk by clicking on add PO items. You select all the vendors that you want to do this for. So you select all the vendors and you select a few of the purchase orders of those vendors. I'll just randomly select a few POs. And click on OK. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create an inbound shipment and receiving these 13 orders with 21 line items in it. While we wait for this to go through, anyone has any questions, please jump in.
With the landed cost inbound shipment, is it only, can we do it only at the start of inbound shipment, or is there a way we can do after the inbound shipment is received?
You mean add landed costs?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. You cannot amend landed costs on your inbound shipment. Reason for that is your inbound shipment would create dependent records. So it would create item receipts. To make any changes in this record, you would have to delete your item receipts and redo it. What you can alternatively do is you can go and edit your item receipts and fix your landed costs over there independently.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So if you added all of the items, next step is we click on this sub tab, landed cost. You've got this cost category, select duty, select the amount you want to apply. $200. Let's apply USD. Allocation method is by quantity and select the items that you want to apply for. Now a quick question over here. Why do I see a limited list of items over here? Why not all the items from my previous one? Anyone has the answer? Why not all the items came through in my landed cost template over here? Anyone?
They should have track landed cost.
The category.
I just heard someone mention track landed cost. So not all the items had track landed cost button ticked on. That's why they never were. We are not allowed to allocate any costs over there. Yeah. Just adding freight in euros over here. And by value and wait for all the items. So your inbound shipment has been saved. Before we go ahead to the next step, let's look at how our landed cost has been applied. So if I scroll down and to the right side, I've got my PO rate. So whatever the rate was on my line level, on my purchase order, expected rate is the same as this one. Unit landed cost, whatever was the landed cost for this item. So $14 was the landed cost for this item. So my total became 988. So on and so forth for all the items. These are the items where there was minimal amount of landed cost because I would have split it by weight or by quantity in this instance. Any questions over here? Okay. Moving on.
Can we do Control A when we are selecting the items, or it has to be done one at a time? Well, when you were selecting the items,
you can do it for our purchase orders. Let me check for items. I'm not sure. I think we can hold it by Control Shift and then select all of them.
In the sequence, yeah.
In the sequence, not by Control A. Yep, you can do it like this. If you click on this button, you can select all and do it.
And the right arrow. Yeah, okay.
The right arrow. Next step is to mark it in transit. And receive the inbound shipment. The stake ownership bill of lading number, it's more in detail of inbound shipment, which can be covered next time or some other time. Right now, we'll focus on the landed cost part of inbound shipment. So we go ahead and receive the inbound shipment. You can see that it's these many purchase orders with all of these items and save. To do it for this item. And save. Right. We're not receiving 2 lines. This might take a few seconds. Anyone has any question? Just check there's some messages going on over here. How many associated items can be added? Faisal, I'm not sure how many specific lines can be added. I've not seen a restricted amount. I think there's 300 is the limit, but I'm not 100% sure of that one. Thanks for the question, though. All right, looks like our inbound shipment has been completed. You click on the complete button over here and you will see all these purchase orders have been received in bulk. Let's just open a few of these item receipts and we can check the landed cost over there. As you can see, the landed cost has been applied on line level automatically over here. Freight and duty has been added because you see freight ad applied for all the items, duty ad only applied for a few of the items. You can see the distribution over here. Ian, earlier you had mentioned a question regarding currency. As you saw that I had added my freight in euros, but it gets converted into USD and is being applied in USD as well on the GL impact. Yep, same way it would be done on all of these item receipts, and you can see the landed costs over here as well. That was our inbound shipment and adding landed costs over there. One more thing to mention over there, just an interesting point. Now you've received your items and you've added landed costs. After a couple of months, you have received a new bill regarding some kind of freight or some kind of holding fees. You want to allocate that cost to your item. What you can do is you can go and edit your old item receipt, allocate or change the costs over there, and it will increase the average cost of that time period. So even if you had sold that item in the period, it would go and increase the cost of goods sold of that item. That was our inbound shipment. Any questions for inbound shipment or any three of our methods that we saw? Perfect. We'll move on to the last segment. Is someone saying something? Okay. We'll move on to the last segment, which is reporting and reconciliation. We can just quickly have a look at our reports, inventory and inventory valuation over here. Let's look at one of the items that we had used today. So I think we had used this monitor. Let's open the monitor. Let's open this iPad that we've been using. So if I open this one and scroll down at the bottom, you can see that I've added freight and duty over here. All of these costs have been added at the total of that item. Same way for this iPad that I had created, I've added some duty, some freight over here, and the valuation of that item has increased. Shipping. I'm not sure what your name over here is, but what do you mean by IDB method, IBD method? So the question is, when landed cost was done in the first method and a third party transaction was attached, is there a way to do it by IBD method?
I think it's the inbound method.
Inbound shipment. No, it cannot be done to inbound shipment. Because inbound shipment, you are doing transactions. I'll just quickly show you. This is the item receipt. We did it on by inbound shipment. Inbound shipment already goes to a line because you're splitting all the lines that you manually added. And you can only attach transactions when it is done without line level. Yep. Perfect. That's our inventory valuation report. I can quickly show you the item impacts. Question. Thank you, shipping. Let's open our monitor that we've been working with. So that's our Dell monitor. If I scroll down, you can see my purchase price was $909, but my average cost has increased a little bit. That's because I've been adding some kind of landed costs. So my total average has increased for that item. So when you would be pricing the item, you would be doing this over here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this average cost is an average cost of all your locations. Whereas if you scroll down at the bottom, this is the actual average cost of the item where we've been purchasing, which is San Mateo. Yep. So the item's average cost has increased from 909 to 909.63. Perfect. That's our inventory valuation. And next we've got all the questions are welcome. If you don't have any questions now, that's totally fine. You can reach out to us or me anytime. That's perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for your time as well.